Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. I'm sorry, but you have to suffer my English accent from Andalusia for a few minutes before you take another break or after 2 sessions, right? So what I'm going to talk about is the transition that I experienced by myself during these years. And I would say how we came to this idea of this session. We were speaking, Michiel and me, that, you know, Microsoft is pushing all of us for several years. You had to change your business model. You had to change it. You had to move away from selling things you have to selling things you own as an intellectual property. So you had to change the way you do it. And in my case, it happened that 17 years ago, I created a company called SolidQ that was built just around data. When, if you remember at the time, I'm talking about 2002, not everybody was talking about the importance of data back then, right? We just focused on data, that's it, nothing else. But it was a purely consulting company, nothing else. And then, yes, we tried to build intellectual property along the way. We tried to enhance our systems and our services by creating our own procedures, methodologies, etc. But still, we struggle to be a successful, let's say, scalable company. It was always based on selling time and material, basically. And then 2 years ago, I decided to create another company together with people from the university. And that was all about intellectual property, nothing else. It was not a consulting company. It's only about how to get benefits out of the development we build around artificial intelligence. So this transition along this way, along these 17 years, we learned several things, and I wanted to share them with you, if that's okay. So selling licenses, sorry, it's not my business. I don't know much about it. We never did it. At SolidQ, rarely did it, let's say. But the thing is, it's purely based on margin, right? I hope that some of you who are selling licenses might agree with these points. Otherwise, feel free to disagree. So the thing is, the sales team is the one rolling the show. It's the contacts, is identifying the needs of the clients, and then selling them the license they need. Obviously, if you have technical experts, they can help you to do these sales in a more intelligent way, or at least helping the real problem the customer have, and not just whatever you have on sale this month. And the business structure of a company like this is based mostly on the manual transactions you need to perform. Because if everything could be done automatically, let's say through the web, through web commerce, then you don't need much structure at all. The system will do it for you. But how much you need on sales by person to person, how much contact you need to have with the clients to sell them the licenses, that can motivate an increase of your structure. Or manual billing and accounting, in case you have complex billing or complex relationship with the clients. But also, in many cases, you have to think in terms of, do you want to do all that in-house or outsource? For instance, support. Do you want to provide support to the clients as well? Support for the license that you sell? Well, you can outsource that if you like. In my case, I had to be honest, we never thought about that. Thinking about selling licenses was never appealing to us, so we never did it. But then what about time and materials? In this case, a typical consulting company, you sell hours, you have people, you sell hours, that was it. The thing is, in that case, who drives the show? It's not just the salespeople. I would say it's not also the pure technical people. At the end of the day, you need both. Or probably a type of person who can do both things at the same time, right? Some kind of technical salesperson. The thing is, pricing, you have 2 ways to do this. You could say, this is my cost, I add the margin, that's the selling price. Honestly, I think it's a mistake. The pricing should be driven by the market. How much your clients are willing to pay for the value you add to them, right? Then the cost, you have to calculate the cost to be compatible with the price you sell, but not the other way around. And then you have to think about which 2 models you want to show. Is a high volume, high rotation, lots of hours, low margin, or fewer hours out of every person, but highly specialized so they can learn more and be more specialized over time, so you can charge more. Obviously, utilization is an issue here, because either you have a high utilization, but not so much room for improvement and for learning, or you have low utilization, more room for improvement, but higher cost. It's up to you. And the business structure is based on how many people you have, basically. How many full-time employees you have, how many independent contractors. But keep in mind that financial could be a problem. Selling licenses, probably not that much, because these days you don't have to stock them. You just sell them, and you don't have to purchase them in advance. But here, it's a different story altogether. And I have to be honest with you. When we created the company 17 years ago, we didn't realize how much money was required to run a company like that successfully. Because how much money do you need for running a company like this? Easy calculation, how much is your payroll, right? And not only this, how long it takes for your clients to pay you. Because that dictates how many payrolls you need to cover. And at the end of the day, you say, how much can I grow? How much money I have in the bank? How many payrolls I can cover? And that's it. It's as simple as this. But something very important is this is not a scalable model, not at all. Why? Because you have only this many hours per person to sell. That's it. In Spain, typically it's 1,800 hours per year, and that's it. If you're lucky to sell 100% of them, which is not the case typically, you're lucky you can sell 70% or 60%, depends on the business. But the thing is, so many people don't realize that selling hours is a perishable product. It expires every day. So the hours you had today for sale, they are gone at midnight. You start the counter again tomorrow, right? So this is a difficult thing. I have to say, when we created SolidQ, we didn't know all that. So we learned a few of the things along the way. Some of them we were able to solve them, some of them we were not. That's the way it is. So one question that comes in every single time we have a meeting with partners here in Spain, or even outside Spain, always this problem comes along. Do you want to cover everything, or do you want to be a niche provider? Typically, the smaller the country, the broader the partner is forced to be, somehow, right? Because the clients request everything, and I don't have enough business if I cover just this little niche. So it's better if I cover every single thing that is in the technology out there. It reminds me of those times when I started in technology about 40 years ago, that we were called computer guys. We were able to fix a mouse or printer or work with a word processor or write a code to writing a program about anything, right? We were just computer guys. These days, it's not like that anymore. Either you specialize, so you can charge higher rates for it, or you do everything, in which case you compete with volume, compete with price with everybody else. Or you are very big. Don't get me wrong. You are a company with 100,000 employees, most probably you have employees for everything. And you have experts for everything. But you are a 10-person shop or a 100-person shop, doing everything is not that good. So many people were asking us 17 years ago, why focus on data only? In fact, we made a mistake. We thought, well, you know what? SharePoint, some kind of data as well. You store documents. The documents have a title, have a size, have a date of creation. It's some kind of table, right? It's a row in a table, so somehow, why not to do with SharePoint as well? We created a SharePoint practice, a very little SharePoint practice, until we discovered that, yes, we could be proud to be very good at data, but we were not very good at SharePoint. So we decided to drop it. We dropped a line, or we focused on data only. SQL Server initially, administration, high availability, et cetera, and then we moved to BI and so on. But that was it, because in many cases, what you don't do, or what you decide not to do, defines you much better than what you actually do. Right? So taking out all these things that are not core to your business and leaving that to other people who do it much better than you is typically better than trying to do everything by yourself. This is a typical cry we have every time we have partner meeting and said, look, come on, let's collaborate. I do things quite right, but other things I have no clue. So you help me out, I'll help you out. Then it comes to what are the differentiating points? And I had to be honest with you. At first, when we started 17 years ago, we have no idea that these were our differentiating points. We discovered that along the way, okay? So one is deep expertise. Yes, we kind of thought that it was interesting. It was important to have that. So we tried to learn as much as possible of for the piece of technology we cover, right? So we try to have the best persons and the best learners on that particular technology. But what about retaining that talent? At the beginning, we thought, well, we are so great. Everybody is going to come with us, and nobody's going to leave. That's not right. That's not quite right. People leave for different reasons. And you know, in most cases, salary is not the main problem. Sometimes the problem is that they don't like the person they're working with, they don't like their boss, or you put them in a project they hate. So there are many more things that go against talent retention that actually the salary you can pay for them. And also, you know, SolidQ is still a small company. We're 150 people worldwide. If a Swiss bank comes to any of our guys, hey, you have here this much money, what could we say? Hey, thank you for the years you've been with us. Let's see if we can have lunch together sometime, right? Or if one of the big four come along, well, probably they will be able to double their salary at any given time. And what can we do about that? Nothing, absolutely nothing. But then there's another thing that's quite interesting. I'm still talking about time and materials. I'm still talking about consulting, but it applies as well to intellectual property. Diversity. Diversity is something that not many companies achieve unless they are very, very big. And when I'm talking about diversity is the ability to have people from different countries. It's not only the language. It's the fact that you can speak with a client understanding how their mind works. It's not only the language. You know, Spanish language is spoken in many different countries in the world. Well, South America mostly, and Spain. But you go from country to country in Latin America, they have different mindset. They react differently on the way you speak with them. The same proposition, the same business proposition doesn't work the same way in Argentina, Mexico, or Spain. It doesn't. But then there are many other things. You want to retain your talent, you have to be aware of the cultural differences. One of the things I typically comment on this regard is, since I started SolidQ 17 years ago, I never, as a president of the company, I never sent a Christmas greeting email, ever. I sent New Year's greetings. Why? Because we have Muslim people, all type of Christians, Jews, we have Buddhists, we have atheists. So how can I send, as a general yearly message to the company, a Christmas greeting message? I cannot do it, just for respect to them, right? And then another thing that is quite interesting was the agile type of conversation, engagement, and resolution of problems with the clients. Because typically the big ones, the bigger the company becomes, the more difficult it gets to engage with the clients. And they really appreciate that you can quickly understand what they need and engage rapidly with them without going through lots of paperwork. But obviously, none of that is free of charge. You have to embrace each one of those points, but each one of them has a tremendous cost, right? So, yes, you can be successful somehow, but your finances will suffer because you try to achieve all that. One typical point on this was, what about the differences between full-time employees and independent contractors? When we started SolidQ, most of the people that were working with us, mostly in the US, were independent contractors. These days, it's the other way around. Because it's not that easy. Are they part-time? Are they full-time? Are they competing with you? Or what do you mean competing? In our case, we put very specific rules about what an independent contractor SolidQ could do on their own, what moonlighting will look like for them, and what they can only do through SolidQ. And that was not easy all the time. It was not clear differences sometimes. But one important thing is the intellectual property. Who owns the intellectual property? And then a very easy path. I don't have much money. I can just hire that. So they have intellectual property. I pay them an extra per hour or an extra per day, and then I can use the intellectual property, but they own it. And they are the guys who will maintain it and will improve it. The problem is, when they leave, that intellectual property lives with them. So what remains in the company? Nothing. And in many cases, we can even make the mistake of having that person to be the main point of contact with the client. So when that person leaves, the client lives with him or with her. And then we are toast, right? So you had to clarify that quite right from the beginning. And what about the independent contractor rates? It's another issue. Somebody can be very successful, and they can tell you, look, what are you trying to pay me? I can get this much money or double than that selling directly my time to the client. So you have to pay me more. But then how to adjust how much you pay to the independent contractor and how much you charge the client is a big issue. This is one of the reasons why time and materials consulting is not scalable. Right? Okay, so one thing that we did in SolidCube, it might be a mistake, might be right, I don't know. Perhaps this is one of the reasons that we have so many ICs that's been working with us for 17 years, is that we treat ICs in the same way we treat full-time employees. For us, it's just a person, SolidCube person, that's it. They have a SolidCube email address. They have to sign the same confidentiality and e-policies and code of conduct documents as anybody else. It's their choice to be IC or be full-time employee at any given time. And I know some of them switch from time to time, one model to another, right? Okay, so intellectual property, well, okay. The thing is, it's not that simple, because in this case, the biggest barrier is how much money you have, because you have to invest in it. I can tell you, in SolidCube, for many years, we tried to build intellectual property out of the knowledge we had already of working with clients. So, but how do you do that? You had to create procedures, you had to create frameworks, you had to create methodologies. But in order to do that, someone has to take some time off to write all that down. And not only this, it's not enough having that document. You had to prove that somebody else, not the author, somebody else, using that document can deliver successfully the same type of services. And that's not easy. Right? But unless you do that, you don't actually have company-owned intellectual property. It's somebody else's. Okay? Then another thing is, you can easily say, well, I'm very interested in cognitive services. Let's go for it. Let's build something around cognitive services. But are you really sure that the market is really demanding that service right now? Probably yes. Probably 5 years ago, no. So the driven force should be the market and not what your people want. In the other company I just built, knows, some people are very interested in 3D printers. Great, they do great things. How can we sell that to the clients? Right, so far, nothing, impossible. So, okay, for playing something on Friday evening is fine, but to build a service around that is not that good. So remember, this is financially driven, of course, because you invest, and then expecting that later on, during several years, you'll be able to recover that money by selling licenses to your intellectual property. It's a completely different proposition, okay? And then another thing is the pricing. What about how much is the price of your license? You invested already 1 million euros. Oh, okay, good. Now what? How are you going to license this? Are you going to license this right away so somebody can buy the license and do whatever they want with it? Or do you want to license the usage? So every month you charge something, so you're selling that as a software as a service. And if you do that, how much per month? 10 euros per person? 1 euro per transaction? 100 euros flat per month? How do you do that? It's not easy at all. Any of you had to be engaged in a discussion like this, or in a decision like this? It was easy? Not at all, right? If you knew in advance how much you were going to sell, that would be easy. But you don't know. You hope for the best, and then what do you do? It's difficult. The good thing is that selling IP is a scalable model. Why? Because it's not related at all to how much time you spend doing it. You can spend 1,000 hours doing something, and perhaps you can sell this, if you are successful, for 100 times the cost. If you are not, you lose everything. That could be as well. But it is a scalable model. So the thing is, it's not so only to say, I want to build IP, I want to build a project like this, I want to create a software that does this. The thing is, what the market really needs before deciding anything. And not only this, how is it going to be used? Because in many cases, the problem is not the software, the problem is not the technology, the problem is the user. I remember 40 years ago, I built 40, probably more. 40 years ago, let's say, I created a very simple application. You just to measure the surface of, how to say that, it's a farmland. They were dedicated to fruit trees. So I built a little application with an HP tablet, and people were just clicking on the perimeter to calculate the surface. It was very simple. I built it for myself. It runs perfectly well, no errors, no problem. Then I add users. And you know what happened? Every program works perfectly well until you add users and data. Okay? And this is exactly what happened. After add users to the system, I ended up having a system that was 100 times bigger in code, in lines of code, than my original version. Why? Because I needed to predict every single problem that they could cause to the problem. Well, that's the thing. Here, how is it going to be used drive, in many cases, the success of a project like this. In our case, when I joined NOS at the beginning, when we created the company, one of the things that it was quite crucial for this decision is that they did something very simple. They dedicated 2 years already in university to do research around scheduling of tasks and resources. Sounds simple, right? Every company has tasks to do. Almost every vertical, every single company has tasks to do. And every company needs resources to perform those tasks. People, machines, vehicles, consumables, anything. So I say, why are they doing this? Okay, I remember doing that in project 40 years ago, right? And I remember that I was engaged in a different life last century in a project in Casablanca in Morocco, running the gas pipeline that goes from Algeria to Spain. And I remember dealing with 15,000 activities, 15,000 tasks per day, and lots of resources to plan them. And then I remember the struggle to get that all planned, all scheduled. So these guys did it in a way that's very practical, very, very practical. At the end of the day, what caused me, or forced me, or encouraged me to join them was that despite that they were coming from the university, they were not thinking in clouds and angels and things like that. They're thinking about something very real, saving money to the client. Because either you do more with the same cost, or you do the same with lower cost, but you save money. Okay? And that gives a tremendous opportunity to the client. So at the beginning, when I look at them and say, okay, so you're applying artificial intelligence to solve this? Yes, we do. But the thing is, even if they start very slowly, in a very little thing, solving something real is way better than trying to solve everything and die on the way. And this is something very, very specific. That's why I was engaged with them. So when we arrive to a client and talk about these things, first thing that comes to mind is, how digital is this client? And you know, you are dealing with clients every day. All clients believe they are more digital than what actually are, right? For many of them, just because they have documents in Office, it means that they are digital. Just because they have Excel and they write in cells in Excel text and numbers, in the same way they did before in paper and pen, they believe they are digital already. Or just because they send emails instead of sending letters, they believe they are digital already. The reality is far from that. The reality is many of them don't have the data to really capture the benefits of digitalization. And then when we try to do something like this and try to optimize their systems, we end up that we have no data to start with. And that's a problem. So because do they really need artificial intelligence? Really? In many cases, they need to start from very, very far away from that. Perhaps they need to clarify the processes, or just having better data management, or any type of data management at all. Or perhaps they need data analytics. They don't need artificial intelligence yet, right? Perhaps. They have to start from somewhere. But unless they start from something more real, they will never achieve the benefits of going all the way around. So, sometimes they just need more thinking about why they do the things they do in the way they do it, right? Because in many cases, we simply cannot do it. We cannot apply artificial intelligence to any kind of company. We simply can't, right? We need to start from another different thing. So in many cases, what they do is to start improving what they do. That's it. We help them to improve what they do, step by step. If you think about artificial intelligence, I was trying to search for a very short definition, and this one in Merriam-Webster dictionary said the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior, right? For many people, that's enough. Because what's happening in many cases? They have an expert, and the expert is doing the planning for them, but this expert can take vacations. It can even move to another company or retires at some point. And then when that person leaves, the intellectual property they build during so many years lives with that person. So just doing the exercise of capturing that intelligence from that person and building a system that acts even automatically, even methodically, not even with artificial intelligence per se yet, but building an algorithm that follows the same kind of thinking that this person does to perform his job is already very useful. So don't start thinking in technologies. Don't start thinking about machine learning or deep learning or whatever. Think in terms of what this company does and how can I help them to improve what they do, right? So the focus is not to just deploy any type of technology that is available out there, but adding value to the client by using the technology. Then if you think about the types, you've seen all this classification in many cases. Narrow or weak, too strong, going all the way through general, or reactive machines, limited memory, etc. I have to say, in those, we decided to do very, very simple, narrow. We only do one thing, optimizing the scheduling of tasks and resources. That's it, nothing else. We don't try to solve the entire business problem of the client. We just do scheduling of tasks and resources, nothing else. Because in many cases, that simple approach could be very, very useful. I can tell you, we did some tests with some of our clients, and there's a client who does parcel delivery. It's a very well-known brand, you know. So it's a European company. They manage lots of people delivering packages the entire day and getting packages the entire day. And they use a system that, in theory, optimizes their work. Doing something like this, and I wouldn't say in an intelligent state yet, in a clever state, to start with, they get between 20 and 30% savings in cost. That's a lot of money. And we didn't start to do the learning yet. It's just applying the plan that the experts are doing if all of them were experts, but they're not. As simple as this. So building a machine that does something can be very powerful, even if you don't go all the way around. That's why we typically say we start with a clever solution and will become an intelligent solution later on. If for anything else, because the difference between this clever solution based on algorithms, heuristic approach, nothing else, to be a learning machine that really does the learning by itself requires a very, 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 very important ingredient, data. And not only the data, there was historical data of what they did, but the telemetry of how they are applying the plans in real life. So for instance, we ask the clients that every time they start a new task, they had to click somewhere and say, I start the task. When they finish, they need to check, yeah, I finished the task. Or if they start a task, it was scheduled to be 20 minutes, and they look at that and say, 20 minutes? It's going to take at least 2 hours. They tell the system about this. Then all this telemetry, we store all this telemetry so we can learn from that and apply later on intelligence behind the scenes to improve the predictions and to improve the planning, okay? So, how were we able to achieve this? Through the collaboration with universities. I had to say that. Obviously, you have to be in control of that because universities can do many things right and many things wrong, right? You have to keep them focused. But if you do that, the advantages are great for everybody, to the universities, to the students, to the company itself. We started this process in SolidQ many years ago. And I have to say, many of the greatest consultants we have came out of the collaboration with the University of Alicante, for instance. Right? It's great for them, for the professors. You suggest them essays for final degrees, for the final master degree, or for the doctoral thesis that makes sense. There's something about real problems, not something esoteric that nobody's going to use in the life, right? One thing, though, you have to be careful about to manage the intellectual property properly. Because in many of these agreements with universities, they own the intellectual property that comes out of it. You have to deal with that. And think always in terms of what my business needs, what the client will need out of it, not just how much I can deliver or how much I can do at the university, but how can I sell this? And another thing that's quite interesting, at least in my experience, is that you can create this bi-directional pathway between the university and the business. So people from your company, employees, engage with the university to do a master's degree or a doctoral thesis later on. Or perhaps they become professors, but then later on they come back to their company and they continue working as consultants or developers. So this two-way communication is quite interesting. And you might think that it's required to be a huge company to be able to do this. Not at all. I'm talking about two companies that are not that big. SolidQ is 150 people. NOS is only 18 people. And we do that. We build agreements with universities. They don't cost that much money. If you think about that, the alternative of hiring yourself an R&D team to do everything by yourself is far more expensive, right? So it's very sustainable. Then another, okay. I had to confess to you, I'm a firm believer of the partner-to-partner collaboration. Problem, I rarely achieve it. But I try, and I try, and I try, right? And then, because what I really think is, you should focus on what you do best. Other partners will do other things. Then if you focus on what you do best, you can achieve better solutions by partnering with other people. Other companies can do other things. Then, again, in order to do that, you have to select very carefully what not to do. You have to say, yes, I have capabilities to do this, but I'm not the best one on this, so I'll get other people to do it for me, right? But you do that, you can create a win-win environment for this. So how can I achieve this now? Well, at least I'm going to try. We, in the new company, NOS Intelligence, we are part of the Microsoft Startup Program. Everybody knows about the Startup Program at Microsoft? Were you using it?
I'm a mentor.
You are a mentor of that? So we are part of the program, okay? And one of the things we learned is that there's a possibility that you can go to the marketplace and publish our API so other companies can use it. We are not very good at user interface. We might not be very good at interfacing with other systems, integration. Other people are. So why not to publish and market our biggest strength, which is our engine, and give the possibility to other partners who have ERPs or who have management system for maintenance or for fabrication or for whatever they have, right? And they can add these capabilities to their systems by consuming our API. We can benefit all. They can add an extra functionality to their systems, and we can get this sales channel that add our market a bigger reach, right? Why not to do it like this? Then we need to just take care of our partners, they take care of their clients. And we need to have this two-way collaboration between our partner and our company. So we can develop what we know we can do best, and we can deliver the services to them to complement that offering. That's the thing. And I really believe that this could work. Obviously, it's not the same rates. Obviously, if we sell directly to a client, we can charge more. But that client is not ours yet. Perhaps it's not ever going to be. It's someone else's client. And that's fine. They can work with that client, adding these extra capabilities that we provide. If you think about that, perhaps in your companies, you have this bucket of knowledge that you can package as an API for other partners to use. You're not hurting your market space. Other people will get benefit from that, and you as well. Right? So that was it. Thank you.